J. Smith and Shaun. Let's give them a hand, guys.
You hear me? All right.
Awful. Can we turn off the handheld? Yeah, we're going to get feedback. All right, well,
Good.
technical issues aside.
Hey, J. Smith, just so you know, I'm going to heckle.
I know you're going to heckle. I expect nothing less. Can I get a couple more hecklers? Say, boo, you're fat.
Yes.
I don't know. Are we good to go? Can you hear me? You guys hear me on
Your
the...
mama plays Monopoly.
She did, and then she died. Thanks.
Because she had Boardwalk taken from.
Check, mic, check.
I think you're off.
Hello. I'm on. Check.
All right.
We're both on.
Hear me well?
You gotta keep it as far away as possible.
Ah.
Who
Yeah,
is
So
Shaun?
put it down like on the side of your chair.
All right, there we go.
All right.
Now let's try one
Are
more
we
time.
still
Check,
heckling?
Oh.
Are we still heckling?
Wow, technical issues.
Still
Do you
heckling?
have a sub amplifier that someone was fiddling with earlier over here? Go, talk.
Okay, all right. So one last try. Let me put it behind me.
Glass Joe beats you
Okay.
in Mike Tyson's punch.
So I'm here with Shaun from GREE. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you've come from, and what you do at GREE.
Well, I started in the game industry in about 2001, working on PC real-time strategy games in Cambridge for a company called Stainless Steel Studios. And we made Empire Earth and Empire's Dawn of the Modern World. And then I worked for Harmonix for a little while. And then came out to California, where I spent a little bit of time at Sega. And then took some time off to go to law school. Got out of school, went to work for a free-to-play publisher called Outspark. Working on free-to-play Korean and Chinese games mostly. Then I went from there to working on Facebook games for iWin. Before a time at Kabam doing monetization and live ops. Then I went to a little startup called Funzio, which was acquired last year by GREE.
A little startup named Funzio. Anyway, all right, great. So
Very little money.
yeah, I think they're
Bargain.
about $5.
Bargain.
So GREE has had monstrous success in monetizing in Japan. And now they're starting to find success here in the US. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between monetizing those two markets?
Well, I don't think that there's that much of a difference, really. I think that games that did not appear to catch on in this country use the same mechanics as the games that are catching on now and doing really well. It's really just finding your player base and then appealing to those players, and then letting the data tell you what direction to move in after that. I'm enjoying some card battle games right now, as an example, that I'm spending on. I've spent about $300 on one game in particular.
You're a whale.
I'm a whale in one game. But previously I played two other games that are card battle games that I hated. I didn't last more than a couple days on them. The mechanics are exactly the same. It's the same game. It's just that the IP for this game is more appealing to me, so I'm playing this game more. And then as this game grows, it's obviously shown capability in this country. It'll evolve and give me more of what I want as an American player.
Okay, so really, it just is genre, not specific, but content specific?
I think it's a little bit of content, and in terms of finding the right players that work for your game, there's lots of different player archetypes that spend. So you'll have people who spend because they like to socialize. They want to find a place where they can meet other players and communicate more. They might spend on things that let them do that, or on gifting, so they can build friendships and kind of buy friendships. And then you might have players who are more alpha-oriented. They want to win. They want to win battles. They want to be on top of leaderboards. When you find those players, then you sell them the things that they want to do so that they can win.
Okay. I've seen the free-to-play strategy evolve over the years in the stores and started out just simply buying currency. Now it seems to be a little bit more complex. Can you talk about that evolution?
Well, the one thing that stands out to me in terms of the evolution would be coming from the early PC games that were not live games, that you would just play online with other players, and then going to the client-based MMOs. What I'm seeing now in mobile that's a little different is, I would say, not long ago, live ops was not a big thing in mobile. You didn't have a lot of events running in the games. You'd put the game out, you'd get your users, you'd make some money. You'd have your shop and things you could buy, but you didn't necessarily have tailored events designed to get your players to do the things you want. You'll have your KPIs for your game, your key performance indicators, and one of them might be revenue, and you might run an event for direct revenue, where you want people to just buy something specifically to win the event, or you might have indirect revenue, where you have a goal that they can achieve more easily by making purchases. You might have a goal of traveling the most distance in a land in your game. People might spend money on a mount or something that's going to allow them to travel faster further. You might have a competition where a player can win by winning the most battles in PvP, well, they might buy items that are going to help them win in PvP. It's not necessarily direct.
So is it optimizing on those individual channels that has evolved, or is it the actual free-to-play strategy that's evolved?
I think the strategy itself has changed a little bit, although I can't really speak too much to that. I just think that you'll see free-to-play now, and I've, in my position, from what I've seen, it's a lot more like what social and browser games were before. The thinking is very similar. In fact, now you have Facebook telling everybody how much reach they have on mobile, whereas not long ago Facebook was telling you how much reach they had on people's browsers and the internet. So it may be history repeating itself, or it might just be mobile is now maturing and getting to where it was.
How much has Facebook reach actually benefited you guys, like on your marketing and user acquisition?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to know if it's something that's going to help you in terms of the players that they have to offer. If I'm working on a more casual title, Facebook integration is one of the most important things for my, growing my game, so that I don't have to spend a ton of money. There are a lot of folks, including people I worked with at previous companies, who feel like the key to success in mobile is the successful acquisition of profitable player traffic. And they look at it entirely as a spend and an ROI situation. But if you can use real social viral channels and recruit players that you're not paying for the head count, that actually brings down your cost to acquire users overall, because you're bringing in organic traffic. And it's not just, hey, did you hear about this game? It's giving them the tools that Facebook already built for you to bring more people into the game.
Which is a great segue to another question about virality, sorry.
Yeah, so, well, she might be reading my mind, but I see a difference between virality and organic.
Is it that hard?
Sorry?
Is it that hard to read your mind?
It can be.
I'm just heckling.
Unless you're
You
me.
asked for it.
It's very easy.
Can you talk a little bit about...
Well, define viral and organic first.
So viral is I invite someone, they join.
Uh-huh.
Organic is they discover it on their own, they like what they see.
Right. Well, you get kind of both of those depending on how you're using the tools that you have. Me inviting a player to make wall posts about how great my game is, that's, I guess you'd say, more organic, because people are just going to see it in the newsfeed. But I also have tools where I can have directed wall posts on Facebook, where I can have a person make a specific thing. Or for mobile, one of the easier things, I shouldn't say easy if they're engineers here, I never say anything's easy. I say it's straightforward. A straightforward thing you can do is integrating their text and their email client. Tell your friends about the game, bring up a pre-populated email in their default client, and then they just go to the toolbar, put in the players they want to send it to with their friends. You can do the same thing with text messages. That's great viral. It's specific, it's directed, and it doesn't involve using Facebook or any other type of thing.
How do you calculate it? How do you calculate what traffic came from virality?
Well, it depends. I mean, there's technical ways that you could do it. You could send them to an interstitial page that they bounce off of where they get tagged, but you might not consider the friction to be worth it, because you'll have people who will bounce off that page and not go to the game.
Yeah.
They just want to play the game. On mobile, one of the advantages is that they can't just play the game without going at least to the download page in the App Store. So if the email sends them there, at least you have them from that way. And then if you want to do a swag, you can just deduct your paid users and get a rough estimate of what your organics are.
Do you find that some genres are more popular in Asia than they are in the U.S. and vice versa? And if so, which ones?
Well, by genre, what do you mean specifically?
That's actually touching on something I'm going to get to in a little bit, so
Okay.
we'll just hold off on that one
All
for
right.
a moment.
Spotlight.
It's all right. One of the main reasons I reached out to you is internally at GREE, you've been talking a lot about the life cycle of a virtual good. I'm dying to know what the hell that means.
I don't think I was in the room for that. But the life cycle of a virtual good, when I talk about the life cycle of a virtual good, I frequently just talk about it in the form like a circle of life. You have a new virtual good, right? So you haven't put it in the game yet. You want to establish that good. What's the value proposition? What's it worth? Why does the person want it? The first thing I usually do, unless there's a reason not to, is I create an area of exclusivity about the item. It might be a reward for a live ops event that only a few hundred or a few thousand players will get it first. It's something you competed for. It's something you feel like you've earned. If there's a status to having it. Once we've introduced it and let players play with it a little bit, then we put it in the store at a really high premium. Then you'll get price inflexible whales, people who are whales who will buy anything no matter what the cost because they want it. You get those people in, they start buying it, the sales goes up for that item. When it comes back down to earth, then you have a few options. You can put it on sale. You can put it in like a random chance game. Or
It's
you
like
can,
an item to win.
it could be an item as an item to win in a chance. So you can take something that normally would cost $5 or $50.
It's like a mystery crate.
A mystery crate. And then you put it in a mystery crate that costs 50 cents. You'll probably make more in the long run from the mystery crate because people will spend
repeatedly.
a lot more money on it. And as long as you're giving them something out of that crate that's at least worth what they put into it, then they don't really feel like they've lost even when they're not getting the runs.
Okay, so touching on his question, which I had one prepared, it seems that initially the U.S. market followed the Japanese market about 5 years, and then genres would come out, and about 2 years later they would hit the U.S. And then now we're seeing about a 6 month, like the card battle games came out in Japan about 6 months before they really took off here in the U.S. If you were to look into your crystal ball, what do you see as the next genre, and how close is that window now drawing between the Japanese and U.S. markets?
I think we're almost to simultaneous. I mean, you see Japanese companies putting offices up in the United States and in other places.
GREE.
In part because we have games that work and we have models that work, and it's just a matter of finding that audience and making sure that we gear it toward the people that want to play the game. So in terms of specific game style, I don't really know. I've been playing a lot of games on the GREE network, and I've played card battle games, and I've played games where I take care of a little blob, and I've played dating games. I've done it all. I think every single one of those genres can absolutely find a winning channel in the United States and the rest of the world. They just have to make sure that it presents itself well, that it has a compelling story for the people that you're marketing it to, and that once it gets rolling, you look at that data and you look at your players and you make sure you give them more of what they want and don't try to force them to take what works somewhere else.
So initially it was said that card battling games, the mechanics used in those were too difficult for U.S. players, but yet we see it worked well here. Are there certain genres that just simply won't work in the U.S., or do you see really a mirror effect?
I haven't encountered anything that I think wouldn't work.
What about monetization features? Are there certain monetization features that will work in the market but not in the market?
Not that I've seen. I've seen monetization features in some Japanese games that I think were long overdue coming into the U.S. When I was working previously at, as this example, Outspark. That was my first experience with like random chance items in a store. Ironically, at all the other places I worked at, that had never come up as an idea. And I was like, wow, these Asian game companies are brilliant. And now I'm at a company where they're like, well, obviously we're going to do that. What else are we going to do? So I just think it's a matter of finding a place, finding a home for your different strategies, and everything will work out.
What was something that you have seen in GREE games in the last few months that come from the Asian market, like as a mechanic, and you're like, wow?
Well, I think that there are, without getting too specific, I think that there are different ways.
It's already done, right? You can be specific. We've seen it in the market.
Well, I'm going to talk about things, maybe things that have been done or haven't been done. But taking, for example, a random chance game and adding an element, a collectivity and puzzle element to it that compels the user to actually continue that loop over and over again long after they've gotten what you thought was the actual big prize.
So you worked on a great game called Monster Quest. What was your role on that?
I was the producer of Monster Quest.
What lessons have you learned from Monster Quest that you now take forward?
Well, a lesson I thought I had learned a very long time ago, but apparently did not, was when you're working on a game, you're working on a project. Everyone here is going to put their heart and soul into it. You're going to love it. It's going to be your baby, and you're going to know better than anybody else what it needs to be and how it needs to work. But what you have to take a step back and realize is you're not making this game for yourself. You are making this game for your audience. You are making this game for your players. You're making this game for your employer. And you'll find that you're so committed to something because you know how brilliant it is and how well it'll work, but that doesn't mean that the 300,000 people that you're about to get playing the game understand it.
Yeah, there was an old saying we had at, I think it was Digital Chocolate. You know, as designers, we always want to make things as difficult and hard as possible, just by nature. We don't even realize we're doing it. So once you design a game, scale it back halfway in difficulty, and it's still too hard for the market.
Yeah, I think what I'd heard was if designers were the world, nothing would ever ship.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And I could say the same to some extent for engineers. I think as a producer, the best thing I can do is stay out of the way until I have to get involved. Because ultimately, I'm just an obstacle to everybody's dreams. I'm going to tell the designers no, and I'm going to tell the engineers they have to do stuff they don't want to do. The goal is to do as little of that as possible, and then in the end, you'll have a successful product.
And you haven't talked about the artists yet. These guys are really fun.
The artists, I have a hard time putting into words how much I appreciate the artists. I wish I could have something to show it, but I can't. Because I have no talent.
So, free to play. Should all games be free to play?
No, absolutely not. No, I think.
Well,
that,
you work at GREE. You can't
you're not going to see this. I think that there's a place for every kind of game out there. Like there are games that you pay up front and you get a prepackaged game that you love, and you know that you can get everything in that game universe. You can win every item, you can complete every mission for that X amount of money that you pay. You can have games like that every time there's an expansion you pay. I played EverQuest 2 forever. You also have free-to-play games where, for me right now, I have serious ADHD, and also I'm incredibly busy. So I am a hit and run player of MMOs and games. For me, free to play is where it's at because I can get into a game and I can play it, and then if I never touch that game for 3 months, I'm okay with that. I can come back and play it, whereas previously I've paid a subscription for 3 months and I didn't play it enough. But if I'm playing that game all day, every day, I'm going to want the best quality I can get. I'm going to want a game that's tailored to what I'm paying for every day. I like what a lot of client-based MMOs have done lately, where they've put the money and expense of making a AAA game that you would pay $60 out of the box and pay $20 a month to play, and then they just